Human discovered her dying in snow, carried her through blizzard for 3 days. The snowstorm had already erased the horizon when the human realized the beacon was dead. White filled the sky and the ground until there was no difference between falling snow and frozen earth. Wind screamed like a living thing, tearing heat from flesh and bending even reinforced survival gear. On this planet, storms were not weather, they were executioners. The human moved anyway. Each step sank deep into powder that hid jagged ice beneath. His boots were cracked. His gloves were stiff with frozen blood from where the cold had split skin open hours earlier. The emergency shelter from his crashed supply crawler was long behind him, swallowed by the storm as if it had never existed. He should have turned back. Every training manual said so. Every survival protocol warned that once the storm reached this strength, movement meant death. But the distress signal had been faint, unstable, and not human. That alone made it impossible to ignore. The scanner flickered again, life signs weak, fading. The human adjusted the weight on his back and leaned into the wind. Visibility dropped to less than an arm's length. The storm howled louder as if angered by defiance. Then he saw her. At first, she looked like part of the landscape. A dark shape half buried in ice, covered in drifting snow. Alien armor plates were cracked open, edges twisted like broken bones. Blue blood had frozen in long streaks across white ground. She was dying. The human dropped to his knees without hesitation. Snow soaked through his suit instantly. He brushed ice from her face, revealing skin tinted a pale shade not found in humans. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible. She was alive, just barely. Her species was not one humans encountered often. Tall, resilient in space, fragile and cold. Their empire controlled dozens of systems. Their laws were strict. Their punishments legendary. If her people found a human touching her, alone, injured, the conclusion would be immediate and final. The human knew this. He also knew that if he walked away, she would be dead within minutes. The storm made the decision for him. A sudden gust knocked him sideways, driving freezing air straight into her exposed wounds. Her body jerked weakly, a silent sign of pain. He swore under his breath and activated his last portable heat pack, pressing it against her chest plating. The readout flashed warnings. Power low, usage time limited. It did not matter. He lifted her. She was heavier than she looked, dense muscle beneath damaged armor. The weight slammed into his already failing strength, but he locked his arms and stood, legs shaking violently. Pain screamed from every joint. The storm tried to push them both down. He leaned forward and walked. There was no destination anymore. The crawler was too far. The shelter would already be buried. The only plan left was movement itself. Stay warm, stay alive, step by step. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning inside the storm. Her head rested against his shoulder. Frost gathered on her lashes. Her body temperature was dropping fast, faster than his own. He adjusted his suit, redirecting heat inward, stealing warmth from himself to keep her alive. Warning alarms flashed red across his visor. Hypothermia risk, core temperature falling. He ignored them. She stirred once, weak fingers curling against his chest as if instinctively seeking warmth. Her eyes opened briefly, unfocused and glowing faintly in the storm's reflection. She tried to speak. Only frost escaped her lips. The human bent his head close, shielding her face from the wind. "You're not alone," he said, voice rough but steady. "Stay awake." Her eyes focused on him then, confusion turning slowly into fear. She recognized his species. He saw it immediately. Her body tensed weakly. "No," she whispered, breath thin and shaking. "Human, run." The word carried weight. Fear not for herself, but for him. He kept walking. "They will kill you," she said, struggling to keep consciousness. "My people, they will think." "I know," he said. That surprised her more than the cold. "You don't understand," she insisted. "You should leave me. You still have a chance." The wind stole the end of her sentence. Her head sagged again. The human tightened his grip. "Humans don't leave people in the snow," he said quietly. "Not if they're still breathing." She did not answer. Above the storm clouds, far beyond sight, alien sensors swept the planet. A distress signal had been detected hours earlier, then lost. Imperial doctrine allowed no uncertainty when high-ranking lives were involved. Warships altered course. Dropships armed for hostile retrieval prepared for descent. On the ground, the human stumbled. His knee hit ice hidden beneath snow. Pain flared white-hot up his leg. He nearly dropped her, barely catching himself before they both fell. For a moment he stayed kneeling, breath ragged, vision blurring at the edges. He could rest, just for a second. The storm urged him to sleep. He looked down at her face instead. Her breathing was weaker now, chest barely rising. Frost had formed along the edge of her lips. Not yet, with a sound torn from his throat, he forced himself back up. Night fell without warning. The storm blocked all light, turning the world into endless darkness broken only by his visor's dim glow. His steps slowed. Each one took more effort than the last. His suit's heat output dropped again. He was running out of time. Somewhere ahead, a rock formation rose from the snow like broken teeth. He angled toward it, hoping for even a little shelter from the wind. The storm fought him, pushing back with savage force. When he reached the rocks, he collapsed behind them, shielding her body as best he could. The wind still cut through, but it was weaker here. He slumped against stone, chest heaving. Carefully, painfully, he adjusted her armor, sealing cracks with emergency gel, insulating exposed skin. His hands shook so badly he could barely control them. Her eyes opened again. She looked at him for a long time. "You are hurting yourself," she said. He laughed weakly. "That obvious?" "Why?" she asked. The question was not strategic, not political. It was honest. He did not answer right away. He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her to share what little warmth he had left. "Because someone once carried me," he said finally. "Long time ago, bad place, bad weather." She watched him carefully. "They did not have to," he continued. "But they did, so I'm still here." Silence settled between them, broken only by the storm. Above them, the first dropship pierced the clouds. The snow began to glow faintly as engines burned through the atmosphere. The alien woman's eyes widened as she sensed it. "They're here," she whispered. Fear sharpened her voice despite her weakness. "If they see you like this—" The human looked up at the sky he could not see. "Then they'll see the truth," he said. She searched his face, trying to understand a species her people believed they had already measured. Outside their fragile shelter, the storm raged on, uncaring and endless. The first day was not over. And neither of them was safe. The storm did not care that ships were above the clouds. Snow kept falling, thick and heavy, driven sideways by wind that cut like blades. The rocks gave little shelter. Cold crept in from every direction, slow and cruel. The human stayed awake by force of will alone. He shifted his position again, pressing his back harder against the stone and pulling the alien woman closer to his chest. His suit no longer warned him about temperature. The alerts had gone silent hours ago. Power was nearly gone. Her breathing was still there, weak, uneven but alive. That was enough. Above them, the dropship circled, unable to land in the storm. Sensors struggled. Heat signatures blurred together. The cold made everything look dead. Inside the ship, alien officers watched flickering data with growing confusion. The woman was supposed to be dying. Her life signs should have vanished by now. Instead, they moved. On the ground, the alien woman stirred again. Her eyes opened slowly, clearer than before. She blinked against the dim light of the human's visor. "You are still here," she said. "Yeah," he replied quietly. "Still here." She shifted slightly, then froze as pain crossed her face. The human adjusted his grip at once, careful, gentle. "Don't move," he said. "You're hurt bad," she obeyed, watching him closely. Her kind valued logic, efficiency, survival at all costs. What she saw did not fit any model she knew. His lips were pale. His hands shook uncontrollably. Frost clung to his hair and lashes. He was spending himself to keep her alive. "You should let me go," she said softly. "Your body is failing," he smiled faintly. "Funny, yours was worse." "That does not change the outcome," she said. "One of us survives either way, logic demands." "Humans aren't big on cold logic," he interrupted. "Not like that," she frowned. "That is why your species is considered dangerous." He laughed, a short breath that turned into steam. "We get that a lot." Silence returned. The storm pressed closer, wind screaming through cracks in the rocks. She closed her eyes again, then opened them with effort. "If my people find you carrying me, they will assume capture, or worse." "I know. They will not listen." "I know that too. Then why continue?" He did not answer right away. He reached down and activated the last chemical heater he had been saving, tucking it between their bodies. It glowed faintly, weak but real. "Because," he said finally, "if I stop, you die, and I can't live with that." Her gaze softened, something unfamiliar passing through her expression. Above, the dropship finally received a partial lock. A faint heat source, two bodies where there should be one. The alien commander frowned. "Deploy scouts," the commander ordered. "Non-lethal protocols." "I want answers." Back on the ground, the human felt the rumble before he heard it, a low vibration through the rock, distant engines. "They're landing," he said. Fear tightened her chest. "You must hide, leave me here." "No, they will kill you." "Maybe," he said. "But not today." He forced himself to stand again, legs screaming in protest. The effort nearly blacked him out. He leaned against the rock until his vision cleared, then moved deeper into the stone formation, following narrow gaps where snow piled less thickly. Each step felt slower than the last. The alien woman felt his body shaking more violently now. His skin burned with unnatural heat one moment, then went cold the next. Signs of advanced hypothermia. She knew the symptoms. "You are dying," she said quietly. "Not yet." "You are lying." "Yeah," he admitted. "A little." Searchlights cut through the storm behind them. Beams of pale blue light swept across snow, scanning, hunting. The human pressed himself and the alien woman into a narrow crevice, barely wide enough for both. Rock bit into his back. Snow drifted over his boots. The light passed once, twice, then stopped. A voice echoed through the storm, amplified, sharp with authority. Alien language, clipped and demanding. She understood every word. "They are calling my designation," she whispered. "They are close." The human did not move. He slowed his breathing, trying to make them both seem colder, smaller. Footsteps crunched nearby, heavy, armored. An alien scout appeared at the edge of the crevice, weapon raised. The scout froze. Inside the narrow space, the human sat slumped, barely upright, arms wrapped tightly around the alien woman. His head hung forward, chin resting against her shoulder. Ice covered his suit. His hands were bare, skin cracked and bleeding. The alien woman was alive, protected. The scout hesitated. "Report," the commander snapped over comms. "I see the target," the scout said slowly, "and a human." "Status," the scout looked closer. The human's eyes were half-lidded but focused, defiant, unmoving. "He is not attacking," the scout said. "He is sheltering her." There was a pause on the line. "That is not logical," the commander replied. The alien woman gathered what strength she had left. "Stand down," she said, voice weak but clear. "By my authority." The scout stiffened. "My lady, you are injured," the human. "Saved me," she said. "If you fire, you violate imperial law." Silence fell again, heavy and tense. Finally, the commander spoke. "Medical team inbound, secure the area." The scout lowered the weapon. Relief washed through the alien woman, sharp and dizzy. She turned her head toward the human. "It is over," she said softly. "You can rest now." He did not answer. His grip loosened slightly. Fear surged through her. "Human," she said, shaking him gently. "Stay awake." His eyes fluttered. "Told you not today." But his voice was barely a whisper. Medical drones arrived moments later, lights cutting through the storm. They scanned both bodies. Alarms sounded at once. The human's core temperature was dangerously low, organ strain severe. Survival odds minimal without immediate intervention. The alien woman was stabilized within seconds, advanced tech sealing wounds and restoring warmth. She watched as they worked on him next, machines wrapping around his body, pumping heat and fluid back into him. "Save him," she ordered. "Now." "He is not of your species," a medic replied automatically. "He is under my protection," she said. "That is an order," the medic obeyed. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, his hand twitched weakly, fingers curling as if searching for something. She reached out and held it. His skin was cold, but alive. Above the storm aboard the warship, the commander stared at the medical report in silence. A human had crossed lethal terrain for 3 days, carried an alien through a storm no alien could survive, and refused to let go. The Empire had believed it understood humanity. It was wrong, and this was only the beginning. The human did not wake when the storm finally faded. Inside the alien medical bay, soft lights replaced the endless white of snow. Warm air hummed gently, controlled and precise. Machines surrounded the bed where the human lay, their quiet sounds steady and patient. The alien woman watched from beside him. Her injuries were mostly healed now. Advanced treatment had repaired damaged tissue, sealed fractures, and restored her strength far faster than any human medicine could have done. She stood without pain, her posture straight again, her presence commanding. But her attention never left the human. He looked smaller without the storm around him. Fragile almost. His skin was pale, his face marked with frost scars and exhaustion lines far deeper than his age should have allowed. Tubes and sensors covered his chest and arms. Every reading told the same story. "He should be dead," the lead medic approached quietly. His body temperature has stabilized, the medic said. Organ damage is reversing slowly. Slowly, she repeated. Yes, the medic said. His species adapts aggressively. We have never recorded recovery behavior like this. She folded her hands behind her back. He carried me for 3 days. The medic paused. That distance during that storm, it is not possible. It happened, she said. Across the chamber, several alien officers watched through the transparent wall. Their expressions ranged from confusion to disbelief. None spoke. The Empire prized strength, efficiency, and survival. Sacrifice without gain was considered weakness. And yet the evidence lay breathing before them. Hours passed, then more. At last, the human's fingers twitched. The alien woman stepped closer at once. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. The ceiling was too bright, too clean, no wind, no snow. He frowned faintly. "Guess I made it," he murmured. "You did," she said. His gaze shifted toward her voice. Recognition sparked through the haze. He tried to sit up, then stopped as pain surged. "Easy," she said. "You are safe." He studied her face, alert now despite exhaustion. "You're standing." "Yes," he exhaled, relief clear even as his body trembled. "Good," she tilted her head. "You nearly died." "Yeah," he said. "Worth it." That answer unsettled the room. Recovery took days. The human's body healed in uneven bursts. Fever followed by sudden clarity. Weakness followed by stubborn strength. Alien doctors adjusted treatments constantly, surprised each time his physiology responded in unexpected ways. Throughout it all, he remained calm. He asked about the storm, about the planet, about her condition. He never asked why he had been brought aboard an alien warship. Eventually, the questions came to him instead. An officer entered his recovery chamber 1 cycle later. Tall, armored, authority radiated from every movement. "You endangered a high-ranking member of the Empire," the officer said flatly. "Explain your actions." The human looked up from the nutrient pack he had been struggling through. "She was dying," he said. "I was." "That was not true," the officer replied. "You were also dying." The human shrugged weakly. "Didn't feel that way at the time." "That is not an answer," the officer said. The alien woman stepped forward before he could continue. "It is sufficient," she said. The officer hesitated. "My lady," he acted without expectation of reward, she continued. "Without alliance, without orders. He chose to preserve life at cost to his own." "That violates survival doctrine," the officer said. "Then the doctrine is flawed," she replied. Silence fell heavy. The officer bowed stiffly and withdrew. The human watched her carefully once they were alone. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," she said. "I did." He studied her face. "They don't like me much, do they? They fear what they do not understand," she said. He smiled faintly. "Join the club." Word spread quickly through the ship, then through the fleet, then beyond. A human had crossed the ice fields alive. A human had endured conditions fatal to most species. A human had protected an alien leader with his own failing body. Data analysts ran simulations. None produced a successful outcome, except the one that had happened. The Empire requested a formal inquiry. Not a punishment, not an execution. A hearing. The alien woman prepared for it carefully. She reviewed recordings from the storm, medical logs, environmental data. Every moment was documented. The human was escorted into the chamber when the time came. He wore simple clothing, no restraints. He walked slowly, still healing, but on his own feet. Rows of alien representatives watched him with quiet intensity. The council chamber was vast, built for intimidation as much as governance. Cold light reflected off polished stone. Symbols of imperial authority surrounded them. The alien woman stood at the center. "This human," she said, her voice steady, acted without obligation. He ignored self-preservation instincts. He violated survival probability models. She turned slightly, gesturing toward him. "He carried me through a storm that no member of this council could survive." A ripple of tension moved through the chamber. One council member leaned forward. "Why?" All eyes turned to the human. He cleared his throat. "Because leaving her there felt wrong." The chamber fell silent. "That is not a strategic answer," another counselor said. "No," the human agreed. "It's a human one." The alien woman watched the reaction carefully. Some faces hardened, others showed curiosity. "You endangered diplomatic stability," a counselor said. "I saved a life," the human replied. "You endangered yourself." "Yes. Why would your species accept such loss?" He thought for a moment, because sometimes survival isn't the point. The council chamber erupted into low murmurs. The alien woman raised a hand, silencing them. Humans endure, she said, not because they are the strongest, but because they decide to. She activated a display. Data flooded the air, temperature curves, oxygen levels, muscle degradation charts. No known species, she continued, could have performed this action, not with our technology, not with our physiology. She looked directly at the council. And yet he did. The verdict was delayed. The Empire needed time. The human was returned to recovery uncertain but calm. He had expected worse. Days later, the alien woman visited him again. They are afraid, she said. He nodded. Makes sense. They are reconsidering humanity's classification, she continued. You have forced a reassessment. He looked surprised. Just me? No, she said. All of you. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Hope that's a good thing. For us, she said slowly, it may change everything. The Empire issued a decision soon after. The human was cleared of wrongdoing, more than that. His actions were formally recorded as an act of exceptional endurance and moral resolve, a category that had never existed before. Across Imperial space, protocols were rewritten. Humans were no longer listed as physically weak, nor as emotionally unstable. They were listed as unpredictable under extreme conditions, capable of sacrifice beyond logic, capable of endurance beyond models. The alien woman stood at the viewport as the human ship prepared to return him to human space. You will be watched, she said. He smiled. We usually are, she hesitated. If you had to choose again, knowing the cost, he did not hesitate. Yes, she inclined her head deeply. A gesture of respect reserved for equals. As his ship departed, the Empire did something it had never done before. It began studying humanity not as a potential threat, but as a potential ally. And somewhere deep within Imperial archives, a new question was recorded. What happens when a species refuses to give up, even when logic tells them to let go? The human did not return to human space right away. That decision did not come from him. The Empire requested more time. Officially, it was called observation, medical follow-up, cultural review. Unofficially, it was uncertainty. The Empire had met many species before, some aggressive, some clever, some physically powerful, none like this. The human was given quarters aboard the warship, simple, clean, watched. He noticed the quiet cameras, the subtle guards posted farther away than usual. They were not protecting themselves from him. They were protecting him from misunderstanding. He spent his days walking slowly through approved corridors, rebuilding strength step by step. His muscles ached constantly, but the pain was familiar now, a reminder that he was still alive. The alien woman visited often. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they simply stood together, watching stars slide past the viewport in silence. It was a comfortable quiet, not empty. You should be afraid, she said once. He smiled faintly. I was back in the storm. That is not what I mean, she replied. You changed how the Empire sees your kind. That carries consequences. Yeah, he said. Figured it would. She studied him carefully. You don't regret it? No. That answer disturbed her more than fear ever could. News spread beyond the fleet. Alien analysts debated endlessly. Philosophers argued. Military planners adjusted threat models. Rescue simulations were rewritten to include a new variable labeled human persistence. Some called it reckless. Others called it terrifying. A species willing to endure death itself for someone not their own could not be predicted by numbers alone. The Empire convened a second council. This one was larger, broader. Observers from allied systems attended. The human was summoned again, not as a subject, but as a witness. The chamber felt colder this time. You demonstrated unacceptable deviation from survival logic, one counselor said. You demonstrated unacceptable rigidity, another replied. The debate turned heated quickly. He endangered a key political figure. He preserved her life. He destabilized protocol. He proved protocol insufficient. The alien woman watched it all, expression calm. At last she spoke. Humans are not superior, she said. They are not stronger than us in body. They do not possess greater technology, but they possess something we dismissed as weakness. She turned to face the council fully. They choose to suffer. The room fell silent. They accept pain, she continued, not because they do not feel it, but because they do, and they decide something else matters more. The human shifted slightly, uncomfortable with the attention. This makes them dangerous, one counselor said quietly. Yes, she agreed, and invaluable. The council demanded proof, so she gave it. She presented records from human history. Rescue missions abandoned by logic but completed by stubborn refusal. Medical workers crossing contaminated zones. Explorers pushing into lethal environments. Soldiers dragging wounded strangers to safety under fire. Again and again, the pattern repeated. Humans endured not because they expected victory, but because they refused surrender. The council recessed for a full cycle. During that time, the human remained confined to the ship, unaware of how far the discussion had spread. Messages from human command finally arrived, delayed by distance and bureaucracy. They were careful, polite, curious. Human leadership wanted their scout returned. The Empire hesitated, not out of hostility, out of respect. On the third cycle, the alien woman visited him with unusual formality. "They are voting," she said. "About what?" he asked. "About you," she replied. "And about us." He sighed softly. "No pressure." She studied his face. "If they rule against you, I will intervene." "That might cause problems," he said. "I do not care." He looked at her, surprised. "You'd risk that?" "Yes." "Why?" She paused. "Because," she said carefully, "you did not ask who I was before you carried me." He had no answer for that. The council reconvened. The verdict was not simple. The human was cleared permanently. His actions were officially recorded as honorable conduct under extreme conditions. But that was not the true decision. The Empire announced a new initiative, joint survival operations. Human volunteers would be invited to train alongside Imperial forces for disaster response in extreme environments, not as soldiers, as specialists. The reason was stated plainly. Humans possessed a psychological resilience and moral persistence unmatched by known species. They would be deployed where others could not endure. The chamber reacted with shock. "This is reckless," one delegate argued. "It is necessary," another countered. The alien woman watched the human's reaction. He looked stunned. "They want us to help?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she said, "across Imperial space." He scratched his head weakly. "We usually do that anyway." That, more than anything, sealed the decision. The first joint mission was approved within days, a mining outpost buried beneath a frozen moon's crust, life signs detected. Too deep, too cold, too unstable for standard rescue teams, the human volunteered immediately. "You are still healing," the alien woman said. "I'll manage," she exhaled slowly. "You are impossible." "So I've been told." The mission was broadcast across multiple systems. Not a spectacle, as experiment. Human and alien teams descended together into ice and darkness. Structural failures, oxygen loss, time running out. The human moved first. He crawled through narrow shafts others could not fit, ignored warning signs screaming retreat. Kept going when scanners predicted collapse. He came back with survivors, one by one. Each time his body shook with exhaustion. Each time he went back down. Alien observers watched in silence. This was not desperation. This was choice. By the end, every trapped worker was recovered. The human collapsed afterward, laughing weakly as medics swarmed him. "Worth it," he muttered again. The phrase spread faster than the mission footage. Across Imperial networks, the idea took root. Humans were not efficient. They were relentless. The alien woman stood beside him as he recovered once again. "You have changed things," she said. "For the better?" he asked. "For the real," she replied. Human command officially accepted the alliance soon after, cautiously, carefully. But with unmistakable pride. The scout was promoted quietly. He declined public recognition. "I just did what needed doing," he said. The Empire understood now that this was not modesty, it was truth. As his departure finally approached, the alien woman walked with him to the docking bay. "You will return," she said. "Probably," he replied. "Humans tend to—" She extended her hand, palm open in a gesture of trust. He took it without hesitation. The contact was brief. Meaningful, as his ship pulled away, the Empire updated its files one last time. Humanity was no longer categorized by strength, speed, or technology. A new designation was added. Endurance-class species. Known risk, they will not stop when others would. Known threat, they do not abandon hope. Known outcome, if a human chooses to carry you through the storm, they will. The galaxy did not change all at once. Change came quietly in small moments that added up to something impossible to ignore. It began with reports. A freighter trapped in radiation fog was rescued after human volunteers stayed outside shield limits longer than any medical chart allowed. A deep space station suffering oxygen failure survived because humans rotated through vacuum-exposed repair shifts that no other species could tolerate. A plague zone was evacuated when human medics walked in without waiting for clearance, carrying strangers out on their backs. Every time the data said the same thing. They should have stopped. They did not. Inside the Imperial archives, the story of the frozen planet remained the first reference point. The storm, the ice, the human who carried an alien through 3 days of death and refused to let go. The alien woman followed these reports closely. She had returned to her role within the Empire, but nothing felt the same. Strategy meetings now included human advisors. Rescue planning always asked one question first: are humans available? She stood before the council again months later, watching footage from a distant colony world. Fires burned through broken habitats. Gravity storms twisted metal like paper. Alien response teams hesitated at the edge of the danger zone. Then humans entered the frame. No speeches. No hesitation. They went in. One counselor leaned forward. They are damaging themselves. Yes, she replied calmly, and saving everyone else. The footage ended with survivors crying, clinging to human rescuers who could barely stand. Silence filled the chamber. We did not understand them, another counselor said. No, she agreed. We measured them incorrectly. Far away, the human who had started it all watched the same footage from a quiet outpost on the edge of shared space. He had returned to service, promoted but unchanged. Still a scout, still moving where others could not, he watched without pride, just attention. A fellow human leaned against the doorway. You see that? Yeah, they're calling us miracle workers now. He shook his head slightly. Dangerous thinking. Why? Because miracles aren't reliable, he said. People are. The phrase spread too. Human commanders began using it in briefings. Alien translators struggled to find proper equivalents. People are. The Empire invited human representatives to speak at a full galactic assembly for the first time in recorded history. Not as petitioners, not as observers, as examples. The hall was vast beyond scale. Species of every shape and origin filled the space. Screens displayed translated symbols and meaning across hundreds of languages. The alien woman stood at the center. She told the story again, not with numbers, with truth. She described the storm, the cold, the human body shaking as it carried her. The moment she told him to leave and he refused, the silence after when only the wind remained. She did not exaggerate. She did not need to. When she finished, she gestured toward the human delegation. They did not ask who I was, she said. They did not calculate reward. They did not wait for permission. She paused. They simply chose not to let someone die. The hall was silent. A representative from a distant system spoke. What do humans want in return? The question echoed. The human delegate answered simply. Nothing special. Confusion spread. Then why do this? Another asked. The human thought for a moment. Because one day, he said, it might be us in the storm. The assembly did not applaud. It did something rarer. It agreed. From that moment, the role of humanity shifted, not rulers. Not conquerors, bearers. Where environments broke bodies and hope alike, humans were sent first. Where diplomacy failed and disaster followed, humans followed after. Not because they were immune to fear, but because fear did not stop them. The Empire rewrote its oldest law. Survival was no longer the highest priority. Preservation of life was. The alien woman visited the human again near the end of the cycle. They stood beneath a simulated sky, stars gently rotating overhead. You look tired, she said. Always am, he replied. You could stop, she said. You have done enough. He smiled softly. Not how it works. She studied him. Do you ever regret it? The pain? He considered the question carefully. Pain passes, he said. Regret sticks around. She nodded slowly. There are worlds now that owe their existence to your species, she said. He looked away. They don't owe us, they're just still here. A message arrived while they stood there, another distress call, another impossible place, another storm. He did not need to read the details. He already knew the answer. I should go, he said. She stepped closer. You may not return from this one. He met her gaze. That was true the first time, too. She reached out, placing her hand against his chest. Not a command, not a farewell, a promise. Then go, she said. And come back if you can. He nodded once and turned toward the waiting ship. As it departed, she remained beneath the stars, watching until the light vanished. Across the galaxy, a quiet understanding settled. If a human was walking toward you through fire, ice, vacuum, or darkness, you were not alone. And somewhere deep within the archives of the Empire, the final line was added beneath humanity's designation. If you fall in the storm and a human finds you, they will carry you. Even if it costs them everything,